Good morning to the people of the YouTube. So I finally have time to make the video of the timeline, a rough timeline, because I'm trying to fucking forget all this bullshit. It's not been easy, so I've actually had to muster up the willpower to make this fucking video, because it's not me. Anyway, so timeline of my abusive ex-wife from beginning to end. I've had a couple people ask me for it, so here we go. So, we start this adventure, or fucking tragedy, in California. At the time, I was in the Coast Guard. I was going for my technical school training. I had just transferred from a station, and yeah, I was getting my training. I was an ET. I was training to be an ET, electronics technician. This was when COVID just started. Like, literally, I think it was like 2 months into it. So the Coast Guard base for the training was on lockdown. We weren't allowed to leave if you had cars. Like, it was essentially, you were in jail. There was at some point that we weren't even allowed to leave our barracks, our fucking rooms. So, me and my ex, we met online. We started the online dating. We talked for hours, this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, we hit it off really well. We connected. I felt like we connected. We had a lot of matching ideologies when it came to like romance, politics, financial game, the whole thing. We kind of had all our shit kind of aligned, right? And so I'm like, I did some of the vetting, some of like, oh, watch out for the red flags. Now, there was one major one as we were dating that I found out before we got married. The major one was her prior abuse, essentially. She was married before. Her ex-husband died, motorcycle accident, and she struck him. Like, literally punched him, and her ex-husband called the cops on her. Good for that guy. Hell yeah. I should have been more like that guy. And actually told the officer what happened. Again, the beauty of this is all this is factual, which you can check. California, I don't remember the city. It wasn't Sonoma. I don't know. I don't remember. It was somewhere north of Petaluma. Or that it was like a little bit mid California, a little bit northern California, like near Sacramento. I don't know, around there. Can't remember. So, anyway, I digress. So she had told me that. Now, at the time, she was 8 to 9 months pregnant. Her ex-husband, or her husband, told the officer that she struck him. She got arrested. She got sent to jail. So there is proof of her abuse, actual paper abuse, objective proof. Not me saying it, not her saying it or denying it. There's law paper of a police record of her being arrested. Cool. I ignored it because I chalked it up to hormones. And he was allegedly being a dick to her. Said something, and she felt like she was in the right to punch him. Now, she did, after we had that conversation, I was like, whoa. She did say she kind of regretted it a little bit. She wasn't like fucking remorseful about it. She was like, yeah, I hit him because he was being an asshole. I'm like, okay, 9 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant, hormones are flying. I made all the excuses for her. So I kind of overlooked that. Bet. So after that, we continued dating. So now my AIT school training was for about 5 to 6 months. So that's how long we started talking, and then we ended up, by the time the day I graduated, the day after I graduated, we got married. So now there was maybe one more red flag after that. Well, maybe two. The other one that sticks out of my mind, is love bombing. Now, I wasn't aware that was a thing. And I'm not saying that she dropped the L word all the time, but you don't have to drop the L word to love bomb somebody. So when we first started dating, she posted a TikTok video about how amazing I was. Now, keep in mind, we haven't been dating that long, and I think at that point, we haven't even met in person. So there was ways that I got off base to sneak off and go see her. I saw her twice before we got married in person. I know I'm an idiot. I get it. I've paid the price for it. Like, I fucked up. I get it. Anyway, so she made a video of how amazing it was, uploaded it in TikTok, and, you know, was all gushy mushy over me. But she claims I love bombed her. Okay, so she's posting these videos about how amazing I am. Cool. And at the time I didn't. I'm like, okay, so she's super appreciative of me because she would, you know, make me care packages. She would send me food that met my dietary needs. Like, it was good. Like, it was good. Then I made a video saying, you know, how amazing she is, or how cool she is. And then, you know, whatever. Moving on. So that was the second or third red flag. Love bombing. Okay. But apparently I did it first. That's fine. Then we got married. Or we were on the process of getting married. We're talking about wedding and what we thought and yada, yada, yada. She wanted a traditional wedding because I wanted to wear like a, you know, like a 3-piece suit or something. But I wasn't go with like a traditional like black or blue. I think I wanted to go like a navy green, or like a darker green, an emerald green or something. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't black or blue. She wasn't feeling it. She wanted a traditional. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll get married in my military uniform. And she told me that she was going to wear a champagne dress. Now, in the pictures, in the videos, there's some videos that you can see a little bit of hint of pink, but this chick showed up in a pink dress. I should have walked away that day. That should have been my sign of double standards, and she only cares about getting her way. Now, we still got married, obviously. I got past it. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, it's her day, right? I reasoned myself to look past this. Again, another red flag. Day went really well. Her family is great. She has a great family. You know, nothing but respect for them. Yeah, great people. Mom, I'll leave that there. Anyway, so we got married, and then so once we got married, we moved to Michigan. So graduated from AIT school, my technical training, or my A school, and then we moved to California, one big happy family, and picked up my kiddo from Texas on the way there. So shit started. So honeymoon phase lasted maybe 2 weeks, and then, you know, we started learning about each other. So we started having differences, which is to be expected, right? There's no perfect marriage, and there's going to be discussions about different opinions. Not a problem. What we found out immediately is we couldn't communicate properly. Like, we would be saying the same thing. I'm very literal, so I take the sentence at face value. Like, every word has a specific meaning, and that's what I take it. So if you don't mean to say something, that's like, I don't know that, because that's just the type of person I am. If you say the sky is blue, I'm literally going to take it the sky is blue, not like magenta or fucking purple, right? Yeah, okay, it's blue, cool. And you might mean something else. Anyway, so I started learning this. I became aware of this. I told her, like, hey, we're having issues. Anyway, so she didn't see it. It was like a little small couple fights, which was normal. Then it just started getting worse and worse and worse. So yeah, worse and worse. It got to a point where it was, I think, month 2 or month 3 into our marriage. I was like, no, man, this is not what I wanted. Even though we had a lot of things in common, and, you know, our religious beliefs, our financial outlook, and the whole, like, you know, the basic shit was in line for both of us. It just, I think, I don't know. I don't know if it was just because she was only in maybe one marriage before me, and I don't want to blame her completely, because, again, I know she's spreading that narrative that I always blame her for everything, which is not even remotely true. I took accountability for my actions. I repeatedly say, you know, it's not all your fault, because it took two to get married, it took two to get divorced, and well, near the end, finally she agreed to it. And that's another thing. She claims that she got out, like, oh, I'm in my getaway from an abusive relationship. Let's not get it twisted. 3 months into it, I was asking for a divorce just because we were just too much arguing so early on. That was a red flag for me. Like, how are we arguing so much? We're like 3 months in, like, no, this is not working out. And then, so I was the one saying, please, let's just, let's divorce. She wasn't having it. At first, it was kind of cute. It was endearing. Like, she didn't want to, break up. She didn't want to give up on us, which was kind of cute initially. So I'm like, okay, I can respect that. Let's go through marriage counseling. I brought it up. She said, no, I don't want to do marriage counseling. And keep in mind, there was no middle ground. She believed that we had to agree on everything. There was no like compromising, like, you know what, or like, hey, I agree to disagree. Like, we don't have to agree on everything. We have to agree on the important things, but on the important things we did. So yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. So she didn't want to go marriage counseling. I'm like, you know what, fine. I will go to marriage counseling and see and try to improve myself for us. So I did that. Does that sound like narcissistic person? Like, I try to see where she's coming from. I try to do some like self-learning and like better myself. Like, I know I'm a flawed human being. I know I'm not perfect. So that I tried, and she didn't want to. It helped. So the counseling helped a little bit. It helped me maybe not take some of the things she said out of context, or just not to take it as personally. But then when things start getting worse, like fights, like when I say worse, okay, fights got from disagreeing and getting mad at each other, not talking to each other for like an hour to 2 hours, to I'm not talking to you for a couple days, to us yelling at each other, to us just okay. Her thing, believe it or not, her thing was emotional abuse, like emotional blackmail, because obviously, well, that's how it started. She says, you don't love me, you don't love my kids, yada, yada. Why would you bring the kids involved? Like, me and you are arguing. It's about me and you, not about the kids. It's nothing to do with the kids. Like, I never involved the kids in our fights. Unlike she involved the kids in our fights. There's plenty of proof of that. It's not me just saying it. There's the video. Whether you agree how I handled it, I agree. I was finally just tired of this shit, and I caved to her. I went the path of least resistance. I get it. Not the right move. But I am not the one that called the kids downstairs and involved them in our fights. That was her doing. Do you see her saying, you know what? I admit I was wrong. Do you see her admitting that she was wrong? Nowhere. All the criticism in the world that she's getting, and she won't admit that she was wrong for her part in it. And that's the thing, though. I'm not telling anybody that she's wholly at fault for our divorce or marriage or our marriage failing. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I'm partly responsible, but so is she. The only difference is, in the end, the men get it worse, and I paid for it. She didn't. She got out. Anyway, so our fighting got worse. So it goes from yelling, screaming, to the emotional shit, blackmail, to her like, saying I'm gonna kill myself if you don't talk to me, or if you don't like that. Just then she would start hitting herself. She would self-harm. All this shit to get my attention and give her all the attention. I'm like, okay, first of all, this is not fucking high school. Like, this is not gonna fly. Like, I'm not saying that she didn't have mental needs, or like she didn't have mental problems. I get that, and as a spouse should be there to help her, but you can't force help on people. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink the water. So we're in the military. Like, hey, look, first, it's my responsibility to help you. I can't force you to get help. So it's like, hey, go to counseling. She didn't want to do counseling. Talk to family. She didn't want to talk to family. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not a counselor. I'm not a counselor. I don't have the fucking training, the degree, the knowledge to know how to handle a situation like that. Maybe a little bit, but like I tried, and for months I failed trying to help her. Eventually, I just gave up. I'm like, okay, you don't want to help yourself? I can't help you. I just don't care anymore. Like, essentially, and then she still wouldn't divorce me. She made threats, accusations, like in the videos you guys seen. She threw knives. She accused me of fucking damaging Coast Guard housing when she admitted in the videos that she would repair the damage she did. But again, I'm the bad one. I've already admitted that I wasn't perfect in the relationship. She yet has to say, you know what, I'm also partially to blame. Not once yet. And that's fine. Because at the end of the day, people that actually take the time to listen to both sides, you'll say, you know what, the guy is actually saying, you know what, he's partially at fault, and while she's just saying it's all his fault. Who's the real narcissist? Who's the one who's, we're finding not even a narcissist, because I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose him with narcissism. Who shows signs of that? Or of other things, right? Okay. So anyway, so went from knife throwing in the house to finally she put hands on me. I called the cops. The day that she put hands on me, I called the cops. She took off from the house, left her kids there. And she, of course, she was apologizing and all this shit. And she didn't want to come home till the cops left. And I spoke to the officer, and he was prior service himself. And we were just essentially talking war stories about previous marriages. So he's like, yeah, man, the best thing you do is leave, da-da-da-da. I know, you know, he's like, I've been there, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially, I'm like, you know what, man, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I'll take your advice, and I'll try to get out. And that's what I tried to do. So she, you know, the officer left, and she finally came home, and she was shocked that I betrayed her and called the police. And then that was her always thing. She never saw that I did something because of something, right? So why did I call the cops? Just for no reason, right? Cops came to the house for no reason. I'm the evil one. I just called the cops and made up some shit. Okay. So, yeah, the cops left. The cops got called 2 to 3 times while we lived there. Okay. So there are police records of me calling the cops, that, or at least the cops coming to the residence for possible domestic violence. Right? I called them. But she's the one making her getaway from an evil man. Okay. Okay. Like, her words are just words. I am the one that has the fucking proof. And yet, society proves that men are always guilty no matter what. The proof is all out there, black and white. The sky is literally fucking blue. But if a woman says the sky is purple, everybody believes it. And ignore all the fucking facts. But that's fine. So, throwing knives, breaking government property, fucking threatening me. So eventually it gets to a point where I'm like, I don't want to be with you. I mean, it was going on that for a while. She wouldn't want to give me a divorce. She was a millionaire, or is a millionaire. I don't know. And so I didn't want to get into a legal battle with her, because if she wanted to, she can spend all that money on attorneys. And I was in need for in the military. We don't make a lot of money. So I didn't want to go down that road. So I was planning just, okay, eventually she's going to just fucking, it's going to click to her that this is not working out. So shit got worse. She pulled me out of a vehicle, and then the vehicle drove through a fence, because I just wanted to. That's the thing, though. She literally she knows that she has abandonment issues, and she doesn't like control herself, or she doesn't realize like she's acting out of those issues. So every time situations got really bad and started yelling, arguing, my thing is, why do I need to stay in a toxic environment, whether it's by my own doing, right? If you want to go down that route and say, oh, you were the one yelling and abusing her, okay, fine. Or she was, or she was yelling at me, which that's how it was. I tried to leave. I try to leave that situation, because there's no point in yelling at each other. We're adults. Why is anybody yelling? I don't understand. So I would try to leave. She would block. She would stand in front of my vehicles. She would stand behind the vehicles if I pulled in. And there was one time I was just going to pull like fucking on the grass and leave. And so, I hate Jeeps. My Jeep wouldn't lock. It was weird. It was funky. She opens my door, my driver door, goes for my phone. So she goes for it. She misses, but enough to where it knocks out of my hand. I lean over to try to grab it before it hits the floor while the car's in drive. And then she just grabs my arm and pulls me out. So I was already leaning over. So she pulls me out. I lost my balance. And the car, obviously in drive, drives forward. Or was it backward? No, it was forward. It was forward. Because I had to buff out the fence. Or my bumper, I mean. And she acts like nothing happened. And doesn't admit to it. But I'm the bad one. I'm the bad one. I'm the one that kept her in a toxic relationship. When it was her literally keeping me there. Every time I try to leave the house, she would block the door. Like bar the door. She would spread her hands wide open and not let me leave. I'd walk to the front door, back door. She would run. What is this? What childish bullshit is this? But I'm the bad one. Okay. So eventually, near the end, I got a phone call for my my stepdad that my mom is well, I got a couple of phone calls. Now it's the bad one that I found out that my mom has cancer. Now it was esophageal. They make it sound like, okay, well, she'll have surgery, get it removed, and like high percentage of patients, they survive and it's fine. So I'm like, okay. Now, that was the initial news. I will say fast forward about a month. It's supposedly she's getting worse. She's fighting off some kind of infection. So they can't perform surgery because her immune system's so weak and she's losing so much weight. So my stepdad's like, hey, like, you need to come visit your mom, da-da-da-da. We don't know how long she has to live. It could be a week. It could be a year. Who knows? So I was like, okay. I was at work. Me and my supervisor were in the vehicle. My supervisor was driving, so I had the opportunity to answer the phone. And I got this news. So I was like, okay. So I got off the phone, turned to my supervisor, looked at him, hey, what can I do to take some leave? He said, you can take emergency leave. We can figure out the paperwork later. Since it is your immediate family and it's a kind of a life and death kind of thing, you can leave, as ASAP. It's like, okay. So I didn't know how that worked. It was my first instance in the military, having this come up. Okay. That conversation took, I don't know, 3 minutes. He clarified a couple things and he asked me if I wanted to leave today. I'm like, no. Like, let's go do our job and I'll buy the plane tickets. I have plenty of time. It was a fucking long ass car ride. So I have plenty of time to buy tickets and discuss it with my also loving wife. So, 3 minutes. I give her a call. I say, hey, this is what happened. This is what I found out from my stepdad and my supervisor. This is what I would like to do. So I open up the dialogue. Apparently some people are like, oh, you can't just tell your wife what you're going to do. I discussed it with her. My mother was dying. I told her, hey, I think it was Wednesday. I want to fly out Thursday. Be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then maybe fly back Monday or Tuesday. So about 5 days, right? I wasn't sure, but that's where I was leaning. I'm gonna spend a week. Like, I have the leave saved up. I can take some time off. Like, okay. That was kind of telling her that. You know what her first response was? It wasn't like, oh yeah, baby, like da-da-da, or whatever. It was like, why so long? Why so long? I just told my mom has cancer and she went into a coma. That's why it sped up the timeline of me coming down. She went into a coma. Why so long? Instead of being supportive. But no, somehow it's my fault. Okay. And again, keep in mind, this was near the end. I was already at my wit's end with this woman. She didn't want to help herself. She didn't want to help me. She didn't want to help us. It was her way, no way. She couldn't see the other side. Like, she lived in her own little bubble, and that's it. I said, what do you mean, too long? Well, she was like, well, I have commitments over the weekend. Like, she was doing some kind of volunteer work for the church, which, again, okay. I'm like, okay, I said, okay, you can come afterwards, or you can cancel. I'm sure they would understand if you explain the situation to them. She didn't want to cancel her plans. Did I get upset and say, oh, you're a terrible wife? I'm like, okay, that's fine, but I'm still gonna go. Like, I said, okay. There was no, like, fine. Like, I didn't care. I really, she was more drama than, like, you know what? It was actually kind of a blessing in disguise. It's like, okay, that's fine. You can stay here. But of course, she wouldn't let it go. She would not let it go. Eventually started yelling at me over the phone because she wasn't getting away. I lost my composure. I literally told her to stop fucking yelling at me. You're embarrassing in front of my supervisor, and you have no right to talk to me like this. We can talk about this when we get home. I hung up on her. At that point, I didn't care. I mean, I already told her what I wanted to do, so I did it. I bought my plane tickets, and yeah, cool. Got home, had the conversation. I already bought the plane tickets. She was even more pissed off. I'm like, dude, you want to come down? Come down. You can't come down? Then you can't come down. There's no point in fighting. Anyway, she wouldn't let it go. She made it about how I'm being, I don't remember. I don't remember the argument. It was always over something. Either I didn't care about her, I wanted her to die. Like, it was always some kind of manipulation. Like, it was always, I was trying to hurt her. When my mom was freaking in a coma dying. It wasn't. So, yeah, I bought the plane tickets. It was a red-eye flight. So it was like the flight left at like 5 a.m. I had to drive 2 hours to this airport. So as soon as I got home, like, look, I want to go to sleep. And even she was still fighting. Like, you know what? I didn't want to sleep upstairs in the bedroom. I will sleep in the basement on the couch. And actually, that was normal occurrence near the end. Because I didn't want to be anywhere near her. She didn't tell me to go sleep on the couch. I was like, you know what? Whatever, my guy. Whatever. I will go just to get away from her. So I slept on the couch. And she wouldn't let me go to sleep. Again, the flight was at 5 a.m. It's a 2-hour drive to the airport. What, are you supposed to be there an hour beforehand? So 3 hours, what is that? 2 a.m.? Like, you know, I'm supposed to be there by, you know, wake up at 2 a.m. to drive and all that shit. She would not. I had to leave the house. That took a while to leave the house because, again, blocking doorways and doing her bullshit. I left the house, drove to Traverse City, and I slept in my fucking Jeep so I can try to get some sleep. Cool. Of course, the whole time blowing on my phone and how I'm this and the other thing, how I don't care, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Okay. Next day, I wake up to go on the flight. She is there already. Apparently, it's only one flight, so she's not a dumb girl. She's not. So she figures out, meets me there. She apologizes and doesn't want to leave. She doesn't want me to leave, all upset. Okay, that's fair. I was like this again. There was multiple red flags at this point. I'm like, I just want to get away from you. I wanted a divorce so long ago, months ago, and I can't get out of this thing. I can't kick her out because we're military housing, we're spouses. There's military law protecting her, but there's no protection for the member. Okay. So I essentially just placate her. Like, okay, yes, fine, she asked me to text her when I get there. Okay, cool, not a problem. So I get there, I text her when I arrive, and I kind of keep her informed as to what the doctors say, what they're doing, and I find out that so when I get there, I speak to the doctors. My parents are, the first language is not English. Cool. I talk to them. That gets more though. So I find out the scenario is she pull the plug, don't pull the plug. That kind of conversation. Like, she's essentially that she's not there anymore. Like, so you're just keeping her body alive. And it wasn't my call to make. It was my stepdad's. While I agreed with the decision, it wasn't easy. Like, it's probably one of the hardest things I have had to do. So they did pull the plug, and I told her that, and that's where I started going down to a dark place. This is where I started, like, being a complete asshole. Because, okay, so my mom passed away. I devolved to drinking. Now, keep this in mind. I was away from her. I wasn't nowhere near her. I was with family and friends. So when I mean family, my two best friends, and that is my family. So I go out drinking. And yeah. We started arguing after my mom passed away. Either I wasn't replying to her or whatever. I finally go off. I go off. I tell her exactly how I felt. She's fucking trash. I don't want to be married. I mean, it's not like she hasn't heard that before. I want a divorce, obviously. I told her she's trash. She treats me like garbage, and I go off in my drunken, grieving state. And of course, I shouldn't have, because that's the whole reason I got kicked out of the fucking military, is because I couldn't keep my mouth closed. Okay. So then during this period, I get COVID. And then a couple days later, my grandfather dies. Heartbroken. And this whole time, now she wants to play the loving wife and supportive wife. Too little, too late. Too little, too late. So I didn't care. Like, if she was gonna keep me in this marriage, like, fine. Like, I'm gonna make her pay for it. So I was being spiteful. I was being a fucking asshole. I get it. I admit to my wrongs. Does she? No. So, yeah. My mother, grandfather passed away, had COVID. So this was the first time getting COVID. So it fucking lasted a while. During this time, the military was very stringent on positive COVID. I had to go get tested, and I had to fucking isolate for like a month. So I was away for a month. This whole time, I didn't want to be with her. And so eventually I finally flew back, and I told her I wanted her gone. So before I got there, she was gone the first time. And then I told my supervisor that, like, hey, like, I'm still going through the grieving process because of my mother and my grandfather, and it looks like I'm going through a divorce right now, which we haven't started divorce yet. Right now, the whole now, keep in mind, there's a bunch of shit I left out. Like, she's told me I wish she would die while I was out on the boat. Like, she just said hurtful shit, which I've never told her I wish she would die. Like, but yeah. So this whole time, and she's like, okay, I had a really awesome command. I really do appreciate the command, and it was probably the best. And I really enjoyed my time in the Coast Guard, which pissed me off even more why I got kicked out. So anyway, she's like, you know what? I'm going to take another 2 weeks of leave, and do you need to stay home? Do you have any support group? Essentially, she was just kind of worried about me self-deleting. So I was like, no, I have nobody in Michigan. All my family's back in Texas. She's like, you know what? Take another 2 weeks. You have the time. So I did. I drove down to Texas. I picked up my kiddo, and I spent another 2 weeks. Actually, yeah. So I spent another 2 weeks. By this time, she tried to talk. The ex-wife started talking to me again, and she essentially guilt-tripped me back into. Oh, she didn't guilt-trip me. She's like, she wouldn't stop bleeding. She wouldn't leave me alone. She swore up and down she would change, and she would do all these things for me. Like, she swore the world to me. Like, I told her, like, you want to be with me? Fine. I didn't even want to be with her. Like, fine, buy me a fucking new truck. I don't care. Like, you don't have to buy my love, because obviously you can gain my love through the conventional way of just being a good person and treating me right. So fine, buy my love. It's like, oh, I will, I'm like, oh my God. And obviously, that's not what I wanted. I just wanted a good woman to treat me right and just be respectful, for the love of Christ. Is that hard, to be respectful? To be there, to be supportive. Anyway, so she's okay, yeah. I'm like, oh, fuck, all right. So I gave her another chance. So 2 weeks staying in Houston, I got a little bit better, as good as I could be. Got back home. Of course, what happened? We started fighting. Whatever. I was done. And she finally agreed that we were done because of an STD, which was again a blessing in fucking disguise. Cool. What you guys want me to say about the STD thing? It doesn't fucking matter. I don't even care anymore. Like I don't even care what y'all want to believe at this point because I don't even. If you want to blame me for it, I don't even regret doing anything because I gave everything. I did therapy. I did everything to try to make it work. And while she didn't do anything. So I don't care. I don't care. So she finally said, okay, I'm out. I'm like, thank the Lord. Okay. So how can we make this civil? I'm like, I don't want any of your money. Keep all your money to yourself. I just want you gone. She said, okay. File for divorce. Cool. The day after we officially got divorced, she filed the bullshit charges against me. Okay. Keep in mind, yeah. Day after, filed charges. She called the command, told them that I sexually abused her, I physically abused her, emotionally abused her, etc., etc. And all the proof she had was bruising on herself, which I have videos of her doing it to herself. Her arms, her legs. She admitted to self-harming. Her headbutting a fucking door. Like, it's amazing. Okay. And the only thing that she has on me that is flimsy at best, because I believe some of the messages are not from me, is text messages that could easily be faked. That's all she has on me that is concrete. And that was emotional abuse. And that's what got kicked me out, because I was an emotionally abusive husband. So I went through the process. So I found out, investigators came, they spoke to me. I'm like, okay, cool. I told them the story. I spoke to Navy Jags, which fucked me. Don't speak to Navy Jags. Sorry, I love my fucking military members. Love you, Navy. Fuck them Navy Jags. Just get a regular fucking lawyer. Cough up the money. So anyway. Spoke to them. They said, okay, they haven't pressed charges on you. They're investigating you. Their advice was wait till they actually give you formal charges. They'll try to court-martial you or whatever, captain's mass, whatever the case is, and then we will represent you. Because again, I'm not made of money, and she's not going to help me pay for my attorney fees for her bullshit. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, that's how it works in the civilian world, right? Like, they can detain you, but they have to release you unless they file charges. I was like, okay, yeah. And then at that point, I can get a court-appointed attorney if I can't afford one, right? Cool. I was like, okay, that makes sense. A year goes by. Now this during this time, there's a no contact order because apparently I messaged her through Instagram, which was funny because I had her blocked since before I even flew back on all my social media. But I made contact, and just because of her word, no contact order, which is fine. I didn't care. Which is more of a nuisance because every month I have to sign a no contact order for a month or for a year. Whatever. Cool. So finally, the investigation is done. I'm like, okay, so they're going to tell me whether they haven't, right? My thought process, they're going to tell me finally if they have enough to go forward with charges or not. I was like, okay, well, obviously they don't, but okay. If they think they do, then, because they haven't seen my evidence yet. I'm not going to show the prosecutors my evidence because they're trying to charge me with something. So I was going to give my evidence to my attorney, which they didn't see until they pressed charges on me on whatever article they wanted to give me. Okay. So never got that far. No captain's mass, nothing. So nobody saw my evidence ever. That's why I posted everything on TikTok. Because like at this point, it was just like, okay, the world needs to know that this is my side of the story. So a year later, they said, here's the findings. Yes, there was this, that, and the other thing. So the 06 that just got there, I would say maybe a month. Because we had a change of command. It just got there. I'm assuming it was her that made the decision. Whether it was... I think it was just because she was a woman. I don't know. You know, women stick together kind of thing, which is whatever. It is what it is. She said, okay, we're going to move forward with discharging you. Okay, so am I going to keep this mask? Like, when do I get to show my evidence that this is all false and bullshit? There is none. There was no chance. The lieutenant had to explain to me, yeah, there's going to be no captain's mask. The decision is final. You're not going to get dishonorable. You're just going to get a general discharge under honorable conditions. Under, I think it was Article 117 Bravo, I believe. So for the domestic violence. So because she's kind of found a loophole in the system where she can just suggest that I should get discharged, there is, yeah. I didn't get to show any evidence. I'm like, so I asked them, so, and the captain never, swear to God, the captain never even had the balls to tell me that to my face or FaceTime me and say, hey, we're moving with discharge. So the lieutenant had to explain to me, and I could tell that he kind of felt, and my chief warrant officer also felt for me. They all was like, unfortunately, your time to show evidence is no longer, has come and gone. And unfortunately, you never had, and of course they still had to represent the Coast Guard's best interest, so they told me what they could say without getting themselves in trouble, and I completely understand that. And me personally, I would have looked out for the member more instead of the Coast Guard's best interest, but whatever, that's just me. So, yeah, I never got to show my evidence, and they moved forward with it. I had a chance to appeal, and that got turned down. So I got discharged for that. During this whole time, there's no contact order, so a year and a half, this whole time, she's posted her videos of her fucking bullshit and of all this, telling her side, whatever, her side of the story, sure, whatever, that doesn't matter, her side of the story. And then when I finally have the ability to post mine, with, keep in mind, all hers is her speaking her truth, quote unquote. There is no evidence other than the text messages. That's all there is. And I'm saying most of those messages are faked. What I have is video evidence on my end. But I'm the one being abusive, and I'm the one that's lying, and I'm doing a slander campaign. I finally have the chance to post my side, but I'm the bad one. Men are always at fault, apparently. Men are always at fault. There's a lot of things that I left out. Just, there's so much shit that happened. Like, just death threats, suicide threats. I mean, I know there was a point in... It got so bad that there was one time... Now, this is the last part, and we'll wrap it up. There was one point where all I wanted from her was to leave me alone. All I wanted from her was to leave me alone. I went to the basement. I always go to the basement. I tried to find my refuge of just leave me alone. I gave her the whole house. All I wanted was the fucking basement. She would come down there and start fighting and nagging at me. Hey, it came to a point where I pulled out my weapon and I pulled it to my head. And all I told her is, you just leave me and go upstairs and leave me alone, or I'm going to blow my head off. That's all I wanted. That's how bad it was. All I wanted was peace and quiet. That's all I wanted. To be away from her. And she wouldn't. That's pretty much the story. Alright, guys.